The first scream did not come from Naomi's throat. It came from the speaker tucked behind the magnolia centerpiece on the sweetheart table, a thin, startled feedback squeal that sliced through Afrobeats and laughter like a knife through cloth. Heads turned. Aunties in gold giel paused mid-dance. The MC's smile froze. It was the kind of sound that makes a room hold its breath all at once. Naomi stood there, veil pushed back, diamonds catching the ballroom light, her face as calm as a lake before a storm. She held the microphone lightly, like it weighed nothing. The light from the projector washed the front of her white lace dress, Yoruba hand-beading sewn in Lagos, turning it a soft blue. If anyone noticed the slight tremble in her left hand, they mistook it for a bride's excitement. Across from her, Darius, tall, handsome, perfect fade, lapel flower just right, turned slowly from a table of groomsmen. He smiled the smile that had fooled her for 2 years. Good teeth, good jawline, good suit. A smile like a billboard promise. On the screen behind him, the slideshow had frozen on a grainy photo of Naomi's late father, Pastor Adeyemi, blessing her at a church service. The caption said, "Daddy's girl, forever." "Family," Naomi said, her voice steady and warm. "I'd like to share something very special before we cut the cake." The DJ, an older Ghanaian man who'd been doing weddings since cassette tapes, looked to her for the cue she had given him earlier, the secret cue. She nodded once. He killed the music. A hush, like church. "Naomi, babe," Darius called, still the host, still the charmer. "We doing speeches now? We didn't—" "Darius," she said softly. "You know I love a surprise." A ripple of laughter passed through the room. The bridesmaids leaned into each other. Her cousin Kemi lowered her phone, eyes narrowing. The pastor reached for his glass of water but didn't drink. Naomi set the microphone on the edge of the table and drew a breath that filled her ribs. For a heartbeat, she wasn't in the Peachtree Grand, with the skyline of Atlanta glowing through the windows and the scent of jollof and smoked turkey drifting from the buffet. For a heartbeat, she was back in the service hallway, 26 minutes earlier, veil lifted, hand to her mouth, hearing the man she'd just married say words that burned like pepper under her skin. "I told you, baby, she signed. She trusts me," Darius had said, voice low and bright with victory. Naomi had pressed herself against the cool cinder block, feeling the seam of the wall through the silk at her back. "I'm not asking about trust," a woman's voice had answered, lazy and sharp. "I'm asking about the transfer. Tonight, before midnight. Her daddy's trust fund locks at 30 days post-marriage. You promised, D." "I got you," Darius said, laughing under his breath, the laugh Naomi had thought was for her alone. "She thinks this is love. It's a meal ticket. You and me? We're the future. You know how long I've been working this?" There had been a soft clink of something, maybe a champagne flute against a ring, and then the woman again. "Don't get sloppy, Darius. Remember what you said about her business. The catering contract, by Monday, I want my warehouse paid." "I said I got you. After tonight, Adeyemi Catering is mine to sign for. Her mama adores me. The new papers are already mixed in with the thank you cards." He exhaled, a satisfied sigh. "I told you I would put you on. Nobody hustles like me." Naomi didn't hear the rest. Not then. She was too busy staring at the shadow his body cast on the floor, just around the corner from where she hid. Too busy trying to keep her skin from sliding off her bones. She knew that voice. She knew it because she had paid her once. The planner's assistant, with the red nails and a tight smile, who had been everywhere but nowhere during the last month. Hands on vendors, hands on envelopes, hands on details. Serena. Or maybe that wasn't her real name. The woman with the cherry lip gloss and the habit of calling Naomi my queen in jokes that didn't feel like jokes. "D," the woman murmured, softer, closer. "Do you ever feel bad?" She seemed sweet. "I used to feel bad," he said, and Naomi could hear the shrug in his voice. "Until I remembered sweet don't pay rent." By the time Naomi made it back to the ballroom, by the time she retouched lipstick and straightened her crown and smiled for the last of the couple's shots, she had already shed whatever part of herself still believed good teeth meant a good heart. She crossed the parquet floor like a swimmer who has learned, mid-ocean, that kicking is the only way home. Her aunties in jail whirled around her, gold and coral beads catching the light. The MC cracked a joke about the groom's dance moves. The drummer hit talking drum riffs that bounced like laughter off the ceiling. Naomi picked up a flute of champagne with her right hand. With her left, still trembling, yes, but useful, she palmed the tiny remote she had hidden inside her bouquet of white calla lilies. She felt its square shape press into her skin like a promise. She had thought she might never need it. She had been wrong. "Baby," Darius said again now, softer, only for her. He stepped close enough for her to smell his cologne, cedar and citrus, and to see the small, patient line between his eyebrows that made women soften for him. "We didn't plan this. The slideshow is for later." "I know," Naomi said. She tipped her face up to him like a woman in love. The lace of her sleeve tickled her shoulder. She wanted to rip it off. But the room was watching, and she had learned the value of patience from a father who built churches one brick at a time. "But I changed my mind." He smiled down at her, reward warm in his eyes. He thought he had already won. The projector hummed alive. The slideshow banner disappeared. On the screen, a phone interface materialized, a list of voice memos, each stamped with a date and time. The most recent was from that service hallway, saved to a folder titled, simply, D. A flutter went through the bridesmaids. One of the groomsmen coughed and looked away. Serena, somewhere near the back, Naomi knew that much, stiffened almost invisibly. Naomi touched the remote in her palm. Only her cousin Kemi, standing at the edge of the dance floor with the bouquet toss basket, was close enough to see the flash of the red light on the side of the little device. Kemi's eyes widened, then sharpened. She nodded once, the way girls who grew up sharing a twin bed learn to talk without words. "Before we play that," Naomi said into the microphone, her voice honey smooth, "let me say this. If you hear something that hurts you, take a deep breath. My dad used to tell me truth is medicine. It stings, but it heals." She looked out over the room. Familiar faces everywhere. Some from the church in College Park. Some from Mama's kitchen staff. Some from Darius's job at the dealership. Men with cufflinks and watch faces the color of night. The pastor sat with hands clasped, like prayer would stitch the moment into something gentler. Naomi could have begun the story in any place. The first time she met Darius at the charity gala, where his smile seemed to light up the room. The day he brought Amala to Mama unasked after her surgery. The time he laid out note cards and helped Naomi map out a plan to expand Adeyemi catering into corporate accounts. That moment would come later, when they were ready for the slow build. Right now, she owed the room the peak first, the highest cliff, the way you launch a story on YouTube if you don't want fingers to swipe up and away. She pressed play. Darius's voice filled the ballroom, full and casual, with that low seduction he wore like a jacket. She signed. "She trusts me." The room exhaled a single shocked sound, somewhere between a gasp and a groan. A baby started crying, and then went silent again, as a mother brought the tiny palm to her chest. "Transfer. Tonight. Before midnight." Serena's voice followed, wrapped in satin and steel. "Meal ticket," Darius said. Naomi did not watch the screen. She watched the faces, the minister, the aunties, the little flower girl with the pink barrettes, her mother, Mama Eve, a woman whose hands could make puff-puff for 200 without breaking a sweat, now clutching a napkin like someone had snatched her breath. Naomi lifted the remote and stopped the audio before the most explicit part, the part where the laughter turned sticky. The silence that followed was bigger than the ballroom. "This is a wedding," Darius said finally, voice tight as a snare drum. He stepped forward, palms open, a politician in a nightmare. "This is Naomi, what are you doing? That's... He glanced toward the DJ booth, then toward the doors, calculating exits. You're embarrassing yourself. Naomi turned her face toward him. Her lipstick had not smudged. Am I? Babe, that's taken out of context. He looked at the crowd and tried to smile. We were joking. You know how it is. Man talk, the audio, it's edited. You're right, Naomi said calmly. Context matters. And that is when the entire night unfurled backwards in her mind, the second she turned the corner in the service hallway and saw not just Darius, but the slim red nail of a woman tapping his chest as she said, "Don't get sloppy, D." The flashing memory of papers that had arrived in the mail last week, cards for the guests to fill in blessings, Darius had said, and how he had insisted, a little too hard, on carrying the box himself. The odd way Serena had tried to talk Naomi into switching to a different bank for the honeymoon fund gifts. The time the florist had called and said, "Your planner's assistant wants the deposit sent to a new account. Is that right?" Naomi had said no. She remembered everything, every pebble of concern she had pushed aside because love is heavy and sometimes it hides the bruise. She looked past Darius, over his perfect shoulder, and found Mama's eyes. She found Kemi. She found Uncle Tunde, who had flown in from Lagos with 2 suitcases of clothes and stories. She found Jada, her college roommate, who mouthed, "You okay?" Naomi lifted her chin. "Family," she said, using the word like a net to hold the people she loved. "You deserve the whole story, but not yet. Not all of it. Tonight I'm going to do what is right, in the right order." "Naomi," the pastor said softly, "perhaps we should—" "Pastor," she said, gentle but firm, "I promise I prayed before this." She had. In the bathroom stall, hands on cool tile, she had told God in plain words, "I will not be small today." She had not planned revenge. Not when she woke up to sun slanting across the hotel room and Kemi singing off-key. Not when her mother's fingers buttoned the back of her dress and trembled a little with pride. But she had planned boundaries. She had planned just in case the small red flags became a banner. What to do to protect her father's work and her mother's house and her own good name. Love had taught Naomi to set the table. Wisdom had taught her to lock the doors. 3 nights ago, sitting with Mr. Mensah, the family lawyer who wore bow ties and told long stories, Naomi had asked him to read the trust language out loud. "Pretend I'm 9, she said, and he did. That night, they had filed a document only she and Mama knew about, a paper that said, regardless of marriage, Adeyemi Catering stays in Adeyemi hands. That morning, before walking down the aisle, Naomi had slipped the tiny recording device into her bouquet, not because she suspected this, not exactly, but because something in her had started gathering truth like a person gathers matches in rain, just in case. Now, standing on the stage, she clicked again. The screen shifted to camera footage, a view of the service hallway, grainy but clear. Darius leaned into the shadow of the wall, a woman's hand, red nail, silver ring, lifted to fix his lapel. The crowd murmured as if a tide were coming in. "Naomi," Darius said between his teeth, body angled to block the screen. "Turn it off." He smiled with his mouth but not his eyes. "Baby, we don't show behind the scenes on the big day. This is tacky." "You're right," Naomi said. "We saved the best for later." She clicked it off. A collective, startled exhale. The tension broke just enough for an uncle to cough, for a toddler to giggle at his own echo. Music could have rushed in right there, covering everything. But Naomi didn't let it. She took a step toward Darius, close enough for the lapel flower to brush her sleeve. "I have 2 questions," she said quietly, words only for him, but loud enough to reach the second row. "Who is she in this room, and where did you hide the altered paperwork?" A pulse jumped in his jaw. "You're sick," he murmured, each word dipped in honey for the watching eyes. "You need to sit down. You're overwhelmed." Wrong on both. He turned toward the crowd. "Naomi needs a moment. he announced, voice bright now, public now. We'll play the slide. Serena, Naomi said, still looking at Darius. If you step forward now, you will leave this room without a lawsuit and without police. If you don't, you won't like what happens next. It was like speaking a password. In the second after the name left her mouth, people instinctively looked around, searching faces for guilt. At the back, near the door where the servers moved in and out with steel pans and laughter, a woman in a sleek red dress stilled. It was a tiny stillness, the kind a hunter sees in tall grass and understands. Her hair, glossy and pinned, caught the light. Her mouth, those cherry lips, tightened, then smiled again. Too slow. Kemi was already moving, easy and calm, like she was adjusting decorations. She reached the door and leaned against it gently, talking to the security guard who'd been hired more to keep drunk cousins from smoking on the fire escape than anything else. The guard nodded, curious now. Darius's eyes flicked toward the back. He caught the shake in his own smile and steadied it. You're embarrassing yourself, he said again, softer, raw. Think about Mama Ife. I am, Naomi said. I'm thinking about my mother. I'm thinking about every girl who ever watched a man turn love into a plan. I'm thinking about Daddy's hands and the way he taught me to pour blessings slow so they soak in. Naomi. His voice pleaded now. Anyone who didn't know could have believed him. That was his gift. Please, let's talk in private. If she had not overheard him, if she had not watched Serena's hand, the red nail tracing the outline of his pocket, if she had not collected her own spine piece by piece and fitted it back into place in a bathroom stall that smelled faintly of lemon cleanser and lilies. Maybe. But she had heard. She had seen. She had rebuilt. You want privacy, she said. You should have thought of that before you hired a thief to change my family's envelopes. Several heads snapped toward the gift table, where glossy cards in a white wooden box said, "Blessings for the bridegroom." If anyone had lifted the lid, they would have found a neat stack of cards and a false bottom over a thinner stack of documents. Naomi had found it an hour before the ceremony, when Serena had left the room too fast at the sound of Naomi's footsteps. Naomi had lifted the false bottom with 2 fingers, read the header, corporate assignment of interest, and thought, not today. Now she took another step into the space where the scent of Darius's cologne and her bouquet met like strangers forced to shake hands. Here is the context, she said, turning her face to the room again, voice clean as water. 2 hours before the ceremony, someone slipped forged paperwork into our blessing box, replacing our thank you cards with assignment forms for Adeyemi Catering, giving power of signature to my new husband. 1 hour before the ceremony, someone asked the florist to switch the billing address for final payment. 26 minutes ago, I heard my husband and a woman discuss moving my late father's trust money before midnight. Gasps, a sharp "Jizu" from an auntie near the cake. Tell me it's not true, Mama whispered, more to God than to anyone, paper napkin crushed in her fist like a lily smashed flat. Darius lifted both hands. He could not stop smiling. The smile had turned into a mask he couldn't remove. This is insane, he said. Baby, I don't know what recording you... Ty, Naomi said without looking away from him. Can you bring me your phone? The one you use to text my husband when you think he's too drunk to delete. Across the room, Darius's best man, Ty, with his sharp suit and eyes that slid sideways often, stopped laughing. Color drained from his face the way water drains from a leak. He did not move. Kemi, Naomi said, still calm, still water. Will you help our guest in the red dress feel brave? Kemi nodded. She stepped forward and held out a hand toward the back. Sister, she called gently, voice like sunlight. Come. For a heartbeat, Serena didn't move. Then the smallest calculation happened behind her eyes, and she smiled her pretty smile and glided forward on knife-thin heels, as if she had simply been waiting for her cue. Up close, her beauty was accurate and careful, like a painting whose lines won't smudge if you never touch it. She stopped 3 feet from the dance floor and tilted her head toward the bride, respectful as a cat. Congratulations, she said. The room could have snapped with the sugar in her tone. Naomi, you look gorgeous. I'm Serena. I helped with the seating charts. That's true, Naomi said. You helped with many things. Serena's cherry lips widened. We women have to stick together. Naomi considered her. There was a part of her, somewhere deep and stubborn, that wanted to lay down her weapons and beg for this to be a misunderstanding. That part looked at Serena's pretty face and remembered how they had laughed last week over the chaos of guest favors. But the other part, the awake part, stepped forward now, and the two halves of Naomi fused into one woman who knew her own name. She raised the microphone again, speaking to the room, to the camera someone had set up on a tripod, to the people who would watch this later and make up their minds about love and fools and justice. In Yoruba we say, she said, Ori lababo, aki ibo orisa. We honor the head before we honor any idol. Today, I will honor my head. I will not bend it to a lie. Play the rest, someone whispered from the tables, unable to keep quiet any longer. Let us hear. Please, another voice said, weak and broken. Mama Ife. Naomi looked at her mother, then at the pastor, then at the edges of the room where the uncles had started to stand, protective and restless. She could feel the story's spine under her hands. Any YouTuber knows you start with the fall, then slow it down, pull back, let the breath come back, then push again. She would rewind in chapter 2, tell them how she met him, how the first lie burrowed warm into her pocket. She would show them the small smiles and the larger shadows. But right now, they needed a jolt. They needed the cliff that would force them to hold on. She lifted the remote. The DJ nodded, fingers ready above the board like a pianist about to strike. Darius, Naomi said, eyes steady on the man she had just promised forever. Before I play this, I should tell you something important about the prenup you think I signed. He blinked. It's not yours, she said, voice soft as a knife slipping between ribs. It's mine. A rumble went through the room, low and electric. Ty closed his eyes. Serena's smile split, then rebuilt itself again too fast. Naomi tipped the bouquet so the tiny recorder flashed once in the light. She had more than audio. She had papers, she had copies. She had, to her own surprise, peace. Because when the house is on fire and you discover a door you built yourself, your hands know what to do. This is the part where you clap for the couple, Darius barked suddenly, desperation making his voice crack in half. He turned to the crowd, arms wide. Come on, we got jokes tonight. The bride's pulling a prank, y'all. This is... The projector jumped from the paused hallway scene to a new screen Naomi had prepared, a black background with white text. Simple, unavoidable. Wedding toast, the truth. The room froze. Ladies and gentlemen, Naomi said, voice ringing clean under the chandelier. You deserve the truth. My husband deserves it too. She looked at Darius. And after you hear it, I promise you this. I will return to this wedding with the kind of love that protects what is precious and returns what is stolen. I will not be the girl you plan to eat, Darius. I will be the woman who locks her own doors. She pressed play. Darius's voice poured out, and this time Naomi did not stop it. The room listened to him call her a ticket, listened to Serena laugh low and hungry, listened to talk of forged signatures and midnight bank apps and new beneficiaries. Every sentence fell like a stone thrown into still water, and each circle of ripples reached another face and another, until the whole room moved like a single body breathing in shock. Serena took a small step backward. Ty's hand fumbled at his pocket. The MC lowered his mic as if the device had suddenly grown heavy. The last words on the recording were a plan. We toast, they clap, we dance, we slide out before bouquet toss. I hit the bank across the street. Easy. The audio clicked off. Silence again, huge and merciless. Darius licked his lips. When he spoke, the silk had torn from his voice. You set me up. No, Naomi said. You set yourself up. He leaned in, teeth clenched. "If you play games with me, I will burn this down." "Careful," Naomi said. "Some of us were born in fire." Her cousin Kemi smiled, fierce and small. Naomi lifted her hand. "DJ," she said. "Track 2. The lights dimmed, the projector flared, and a new image blinked onto the screen. A scanned document, crisp and clear, signed that very morning. Her name, her mother's, Mr. Mensah's, locking Adeyemi Catering in a trust no one could touch without Naomi's consent. A little note in the corner, handwritten by Mr. Mensah himself, that read, "Filed, witnessed, protected." Darius took a half-step back as if someone had slapped him. Naomi set the bouquet down and smoothed the front of her dress. Then she looked straight into the camera lens that would carry this story far beyond the Peachtree Grand, into living rooms and buses and bedrooms, to girls and boys who might someday love too quickly. "Now," she said, her words gentle and terrible, "let's talk about what happens when a bride returns to her own wedding with the right kind of revenge." She lifted the microphone toward her lips for the next sentence, the sentence that would flip the night, that would bring the police officer from the hallway, the banker waiting on hold, the planner who had confessed without meaning to. But before she could speak, the double doors at the back of the ballroom swung open hard, hitting the stopper so loud the sound cracked like thunder. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, hands at their belts, faces blank as paper. "Ma'am," the taller one said, eyes scanning until they landed on Naomi. "Are you Naomi Adeyemi Cole?" Naomi's heartbeat slowed. She did not flinch. "I am." "We received a call," he said, voice echoing in the breathless room, "about a missing briefcase. Contents, cash gifts and financial documents. The caller said you stole it." Every head turned to Darius. He tried to smile and failed. There's been a misunderstanding." The officer nodded once, non-committal. The second officer's gaze slid to the screen to the words "filed, witnessed, protected," and then back to Naomi. Naomi lifted her chin and held the microphone like a gavel. "Officers," she said softly, "thank you for coming. You arrived right on time." She looked at Darius, then at Serena in red, then at the crowd that had become a jury without meaning to, and the next words slid out of her mouth cool and clean. "Shall we finish the toast?" And before anyone could answer, before Darius could lie again, before Serena could slip away, before Mama could stand up trembling, before the officers could ask the next question, Naomi snapped her fingers toward the DJ and the lights went black. A single spotlight snapped on, white and hot, trapping Darius in a circle of light in the middle of the dance floor. Everything else disappeared into shadow. The room held its breath. Naomi's voice floated out of the darkness, steady as a drumbeat. "Confess, Darius," she said, "or I press play on track 3. The spotlight holds Darius like a hand. His smile fights to stay on his face and keeps losing. The 2 officers stand just inside the ballroom doors, gazes steady, palms near their belts, not threatening, not friendly, just present. Serena in her red dress has moved only enough to shift her weight, heels planted like pins. Naomi doesn't rush. She has learned that truth works better when it arrives at a human pace. "Before track 3, she says, voice level, "I need to tell you how we got here." The room does not loosen, but it listens. Even the DJ, fingers hovering over his board, leans in. Somewhere near the cake, a child whispers and someone shushes him, soft. Naomi takes a breath. "We met 2 years ago at a charity gala," she says, eyes on Darius, but words for the room. "It was one of those fancy evenings where people spend more on tablecloths than some folks have in their bank accounts. Adeyemi Catering had the food contract. My team and I were plating suya skewers next to a tray of plantain cups when a man with a confident stride and a laugh that turned heads asked if I was the woman who made the pepper sauce. She remembers him there, framed by glass and skyline, sharp in a navy suit, clean fade, a story on his tongue about growing up in Decatur and selling candy at middle school football games. He told it like a winner talks, quick, fun, practiced. When he tried the pepper sauce and made a big show of coughing and laughing, people looked. He liked attention the way a sunflower likes sun. He pointed it at her and she, after months of grief for a father who never stopped building, felt warm for the first time in a while. He asked me out that night, Naomi says quietly. I told him I had deliveries at dawn. He offered to help. He showed up before the sun, wore the wrong shoes, and smiled the whole time. Mama liked him. Kemi tolerated him. Daddy, she swallows, corrects herself. Daddy is gone. Daddy would have asked 10 questions and a prayer. Darius came at a time when my family needed laughter, and he knew how to make laughter look like love. A few heads nod. Everyone knows a person who can turn charm into a blanket. 6 months in, Naomi continues, he started suggesting little improvements. Babe, that delivery van is a money pit. Let me call my guy. Babe, you work too hard. I'll handle the invoices this week. Babe, why don't we use one app for all the wedding gifts? Make it easy for guests to give cash. She glances at Serena. The red dress glows like a warning light. Around that time, Naomi says, a planner's assistant showed up. New to Atlanta, fast, efficient, always saving me from something I didn't ask to be saved from. She kept calling me my queen in a way that made me feel like I was being measured. Serena's cherry lips hold their shape. She doesn't blink. I told myself it was fine, Naomi says. We tell ourselves so many things when we want the story to stay sweet. But little things soured. The florist called one day to confirm a change in billing address I had never made. A vendor I'd never heard of, AR Logistics, sent an invoice for warehouse rental we didn't need. Ty, she nods toward the best man, kept accidentally locking me out of group chats and sending screenshots to Darius instead of me. Ty stares down at the floor where his reflection shakes in the polish. So I did something my father taught me to do, Naomi says, and for a breath, her voice warms. I looked for the smallest truth that would hold the biggest door. I went to Mr. Mensah, our family lawyer. I asked him to read the trust papers to me like I was 9 years old. He did. Then he told me a story. She smiles a little, remembering his careful voice. He said, when people come to take what is not theirs, they come first for the keys. Don't argue with them at the door. Move the house. A ripple of low laughter, quick and grateful, passes through the room. People are breathing again. So 3 nights ago, Naomi says, steady again, we moved the house. We filed a document that locked Adeyemi Catering into a trust with 2 signers, me and Mama Ife, nobody else. We also prepared a prenup, not a trap, protection. It was not the one Darius handed me months ago when he said, it's just paperwork, babe. You trust me, right? The one he forgot to give me in time to read through with my lawyer. This one, she gestures toward the projector where the scanned pages from track 2 still wait in the computer's memory, was mine. It said that love would never be measured in ownership papers and that my father's legacy would not be currency. She doesn't say it like a speech. She says it like a recipe she has learned by heart. And this morning, Naomi continues, I asked our officiant to do me a favor. Pastor, she turns toward the man who had prayed over the rings. Thank you again. The pastor stands, small, careful man with kind eyes. We spoke, he says softly, voice carrying. The bride asked me to hold the legal license until after the reception. I have it. It has not been signed. A gasp knifes through the room, sharper than the earlier ones. Someone claps a hand over her mouth. Darius's head jerks toward the pastor as if pulled by a rope. What? He says, friendliness gone. We said vows. We're married. We spoke vows before God, the pastor answers, not unkind. The state recognizes marriage when the license is signed and filed. In wisdom, Naomi asked for time. We agreed. Naomi looks at Darius. There is no hate in her face, only clarity. You wanted to run to the bank between the toast and the bouquet toss, she says evenly. But even if the bank had opened its vault for you, there is no husband access to my accounts tonight. There is no husband. A murmur, half sorrow, half satisfied, breaks against the white tablecloths and gold chargers. Some people are embarrassed for Darius. Some are relieved. Some are proud of Naomi's spine. Most are all three at once. Darius's chest rises and falls quicker now. The smile mask has slipped so far it looks like a grimace. "So that's the game," he says, low. "You baited me." Naomi doesn't flinch. "I protected myself. There's a difference." In the doorway, one officer gently radios a brief code. The other watches Darius's hands. Naomi could press play right now. She could go for the jugular. But she keeps her pace. Backstory isn't a delay. It's the map that shows why the destination matters. She tells them about the morning she found her father on the kitchen floor, hand clutched near his heart, the smell of smoke from puff-puff still in the air, and how quiet the house was after. She tells them about the way Mama kept stirring stew the next day, because motion stops grief from turning to stone. She tells them how Darius walked in with Amala unasked, and how that kind act braided itself around other acts until she could not tell kindness from ambition. "I am not a fool," Naomi says gently, "but I wanted to be loved. Those two things can live in the same body." She turns to Serena. "You were good. You studied me. You learned the shape of my days. You watched where I kept my spare keys and where I left my worries. You thought today would be the last day my name matched my accounts." Serena inhales once, slow. People who don't know anything about danger think quiet means safe. People who have seen danger know quiet is when steps are placed. Naomi faces the room again. "Track 1 was the hallway audio," she says. "Track 2 was the trust documents. Track 3 is different." Darius's throat moves, a hard swallow. "Don't." "Track 3, Naomi says, is proof." He laughs once, a sound like a glass breaking in another room. "Of what? A bride's paranoia?" "Of everything," she says. Then to the officers. "I asked Peachtree Community Bank to call me the second anyone tried to move funds from any account with my name. I also asked the planner's office for a list of everyone who touched our blessing box today. And I asked security to keep a camera on the service hallway and the gift table from 2 p.m. She lifts the remote. The screen wakes to a split view. One clip shows Darius and Serena in the service hallway. The other shows the gift table from a high corner angle. The time code on the second video rolls back to 3:17 p.m. and then plays forward. The room watches a man in a sharp suit, tie, clear as noon, lift the lid of the white wooden blessing box, be startled, look around, then slide a thin false bottom into place and set a stack of cards on top. He is very careful not to block the center of the frame. He doesn't know how cameras see. The noise from the crowd is not a gasp this time. It is a groan. People look at Ty like the uncle you loved caught with his hand in the pot. Ty's mouth opens. No words come out. "Track 3, Naomi says softly, also includes a live patch from the bank." She looks toward the DJ. "Mic 2? The DJ passes her a second cordless mic and she taps the side. "Ms. Holland?" A woman's voice answers from the sound system, calm and crisp. "This is Camille Holland with Peachtree Community Bank. Naomi, I'm on." "Thank you. Of course." For the room, at 8:43 p.m., an attempt was made to initiate a wire transfer of $38,000 from the Wedding Honeymoon Fund account to a shell account at AR Logistics LLC. The request came from an iPad registered to Darius Cole. Our system flagged it and locked the account when the device geolocation matched the Peachtree Grand's ballroom. No funds were moved. We also saw a separate attempt at 8:46 p.m. to change the beneficiary on the Adeyemi Family Trust. That request was blocked due to trustee restrictions. The ballroom is silent except for the thud of hearts. Ms. Holland's voice is calm and clean. She could be reading a recipe. The words cut like a new blade. Darius shakes his head, voice straining. "This is a setup, Camille, you don't know me. Someone stole my iPad. Ty flinches at his name. Don't bring me into—" "You brought yourself," Naomi says, not raising her voice. One of the officers holds up a palm. not to stop anyone but to slow the spin of panic that has started in the groomsman's corner. "We're just listening right now," he says. No sudden moves. Naomi breathes in through her nose. She feels the tremble in her hands quiet. Fear is loud first. Then it goes still like an animal that knows its own teeth. "Here's the last piece," she says, and everyone in the room leans toward her without meaning to. Pastor has the unsigned license. The trust is locked. The account is frozen. That means tonight you can leave this ballroom, Darius, and tell whatever story you want to tell in the parking lot. Or, she tips the mic, voice soft, you can stand in the light, tell the truth, and walk out like a man who has started to learn what that word means. Across the floor, Mama Ive presses a napkin to her eyes and straightens her back without sitting up. She nods once, small. It looks like a prayer. Darius's eyes shine not with tears, with calculation. He is mapping exits, still. He is always mapping exits. The spotlight makes sweat jewel on his forehead. Serena's voice, when it enters the space, is a ribbon laid over a blade. "Baby," she says, the word oily with ownership, and the room shifts as people see who she means by it. "Just tell them. We can get ahead of this." Naomi turns her head slowly to look at Serena. They are close enough now that Naomi can see a tiny chip in Serena's left front tooth, a flaw you'd miss if you weren't standing this close. "Ahead of what?" Naomi asks. Serena lifts her chin. The whole room leans without knowing why. When she speaks, her tone is proud and cruel at once, like someone showing off a trophy she didn't earn. "Ahead of the fact that Darius cannot walk away from this wedding without that money," she says, words bright. "Because I'm pregnant." It takes a heartbeat for the meaning to land. Then it lands like a dropped plate. Sound bursts, sharp cries, shocked laughter, a heavy curse from an uncle, a broken sob from a bridesmaid who always believed in love. The pastor closes his eyes like a man in a storm. Mama Ive's hand flies to her chest. Kemi's mouth tightens to a straight, lethal line. Darius does not look surprised. He looks cornered. Naomi stands as if someone has removed half the air from the room and the rest has turned to glass. She has no mask to hold on to. She has only choices. The first one hurt, the next must be clean. She lowers the mic a fraction. When she speaks, her voice is steady in a way that makes people stand a little straighter. "Congratulations," she says to Serena. Not mockery, not kindness, something sharper. "A child deserves better than this." Serena's smile flickers, then fixes again. Naomi raises the mic. "Ms. Holland, are you still on the line?" "I am," comes the answer, professional, human. "Please note," Naomi says, never taking her eyes off Darius, "that regardless of any future claims, there is no spouse access. There is no ownership change. There is nothing to negotiate." "Noted," Ms. Holland says. "The account will remain locked pending your in-person visit Monday." "Thank you." Naomi turns to the officers. "Officers, I'll present the documents and recordings to Detective Carter when he arrives. Until then, no one touches the blessing box. Security knows." As if cued by the shape of her sentence, the side door near the kitchen swings open. Two of the venue's security guards roll in a small metal cart, the white wooden blessing box resting on top under a clear plastic cover. They park it next to the stage and stand on either side like bookends, arms folded, eyes alert. The room hums, a low electricity. People have turned their chairs, angled their bodies, chosen sides without wanting to. The night has stopped being a party and become a story, and no one can find the exit. Darius tips his head, eyes narrowing, a last card forming under his tongue. "You think you won, Naomi?" he says softly, all sugar burned out of his tone. "You think lights and microphones make you safe?" Naomi does not answer with words. She lifts the remote. "Track 3, she says, "is not finished." She clicks. The projector changes to a new screen. A stamped PDF from the Fulton County Clerk's office, dated last month, where a man named D. Cole, filed a petition under a second middle name, one that doesn't match his driver's license, for a business partnership with Serena R. The line for registered address is the same as the fake warehouse on the AR Logistics invoice. The line for beneficiaries is blank, but the signature box shows a flourish Naomi has seen before on bar receipts, on napkins, on a card he once slid into a florist's hand. There is a collective intake of breath, like wind rushing into a room where a window has just been broken. "Sir," one officer says to Darius, not unkindly, "don't move." Darius's jaw works. He smiles again, a terrible thing made of teeth and hurt. "You think a paper means anything?" he asks, almost gently. He takes a tiny step, testing the borders of the light. Naomi steps forward into the edge of the glow. Her dress, rinsed blue by the projector, looks like ice that won't melt. "It means enough," she says. "Enough to show who you are. Enough to keep what's mine safe. Enough to finish this toast." The ballroom is so quiet that the AC hum sounds like surf on a beach. She lifts the mic to her mouth, ready now to finish the sentence she tried to speak before the officers arrived, to declare the move that will turn the rest of the night from defense to offense, from protection to consequence. Her eyes flick to the gift box, to Mama, to Kemi, to the officers, then back to Darius, who stands very still, all calculation coiled tight. Naomi opens her mouth. The ballroom doors explode inward, slamming against their stoppers with a boom that shakes the chandeliers. A woman steps through, hair wild from rain, a folded document in her raised hand, fury lighting her face like a match. "Don't sign anything," she shouts, voice cracking the room open. "He already married me." Rain beads sparkle on the woman's braids as she strides down the aisle like a storm with legs. Her voice shakes the room again. "Don't sign anything. He already married me." The officers share a quick look. The taller one steps forward, measured. "Ma'am, your name?" She lifts the paper higher. "Alicia Grant, Fulton County. Date, last year in June. Husband's name on mine, Darius Jamal Cole." She points at Darius with a hand that doesn't tremble. "That man." Half the room turns to Darius. The other half stares at Alicia as if looking can slow time. Serena's cherry mouth tightens, a bow drawn back. Ty's throat bobs like he swallowed a stone. Naomi breathes in once, slow, the way her father taught her to taste hot soup. Carefully, so it won't blister the tongue. When she speaks, her words are clean and small enough to fit through the narrow doorway everyone's fear has made. "Alicia," she says, "I'm Naomi. Come, up here with me." Alicia steps onto the dance floor. Her dress is simple, rain dark at the shoulders. There's a crack at the corner of her wedding certificate where she gripped it too hard in the taxi. Close now, Naomi sees the tired half-moon marks under Alicia's eyes, the kind you get when sleep leaves your house and forgets the address. "Officers," Naomi says, eyes still on Alicia. "Can you verify?" The shorter officer takes the paper. He moves like a man who has passed hard news to families and learned how to leave room for breath. His partner shines a small flashlight, careful not to blind anyone. The officer lifts his radio to his shoulder. "Dispatch, run a quick verify on Fulton marriage certificate number." He reads the number, listens, nods. "Copy." Darius laughs once, 2 notes of fake ease. "We all see what this is, right?" He spreads his hands, still in the spotlight, sweat glistening along his hairline. "Crash the party, make a scene, grab a bag. Classic hustle. Baby, tell them." He points at Alicia as if throwing a dart. "Tell them we broke up. Tell them you're mad I moved on." Alicia doesn't look at him. She looks at Naomi, like a tired traveler who has finally reached a house with lights on. "We didn't break up," she says. "He moved out. He left a note that said, 'Don't call.' He kept my car. He used my credit. Then he ghosted. Then he blocked." "Baby," Darius says again, softer, but his eyes are hard. "Come on." "I'm not your baby," Alicia says, and the words land like nails finding wood. She fishes a folded photo from her purse and hands it to Naomi. This was him at our courthouse ceremony. Same suit, same pocket square. You keep this, it belongs to your file now. Naomi glances at the photo. It's Darius, no question. Same smile, same jaw, same soft tilt of the head he uses when the room is his. She passes the photo to the nearest security guard. Please add that to the box, she says. The guard slips it under the clear cover with a rubber-gloved hand, like sealing a specimen. Dispatch confirms, the taller officer says, eyes on Darius now. Certificate is valid. Legal spouse on record. Alicia Grant Cole. The sound that breaks across the ballroom isn't a gasp. It's a heavy, low moan from the auntie section, the kind of communal pain people make when a roof gives way under rain. Serena moves first. Not much, just a shift of one heel. Her eyes cut to the side door, then back. It's quick, but not quick enough to outrun Kemi's notice. Kemi is already there, leaning against the door with a smile that looks like welcome and works like a lock. Naomi turns the mic back to Alicia. How did you know? She asks gently. Alicia's mouth pulls into a shape that isn't quite a smile. A charge hit my old joint account yesterday, the one I begged the bank to freeze and they kept half open while they processed. Pearl Pine Events, ATL. She gestures around. This place. I typed that into my phone and saw wedding photos on the location tag. Then someone sent me a DM. She nods toward the back, where two college-age cousins lift their chins. Said they heard Darius brag once at a barber shop about level 2, marry for the trust, divorce before the ink dries. Darius's mask slips. His voice, when it comes, is sharp and low. You petty, Alicia. Can't stand to see me happy. Happy? Alicia says, almost soft. You sold my mother's ring to pay a deposit at AR Logistics. I checked. The projector flickers as if it wants to speak too. Naomi hears the undertone that isn't in the room yet, the one that lives in the bellies of women who have swallowed too many apologies. Do not make us beg you to see what our eyes already see. She steadies the mic. Alicia, she says, did you sign a divorce? No. Did you file? I tried. Alicia's head tilts. He dodged. He always has a new address, a new number, a new smile. You know the type. Naomi nods once, heart hammering, face calm. She turns to the officers. So he's not just a con at a wedding. He's a husband at my wedding. The taller officer's jaw tightens a shade. Ma'am, bigamy is a criminal matter. We can't make that determination on the floor, but the paper you've got and the spouse present are enough to warrant a hold for questioning, plus your financial complaint. We'll call the detective on duty. Darius flashes his teeth. You gonna cuff a groom in front of his guests? That's your move? Serena steps closer to his light. Don't touch him, she tells the officers, voice honey over coals. He didn't do anything wrong tonight. Except attempt wire fraud. Ms. Holland's voice floats from the speakers, polite as a librarian. And beneficiary manipulation, and... Pardon, should I mute? Nah, you're fine. The DJ murmurs to his board, forgetting the mic picks him up. A ripple of laughter, too sharp, breaks some of the ice. Naomi inhales. The plan she didn't know she would need keeps building itself, brick by brick, out of the pieces of the day. We won't do drama for drama's sake, she says, not to Darius or Serena, but to the room. I want this part to be clean. Clear. She lifts her chin toward the pastor. Sir, will you hold this with me? The pastor steps into the edge of the spotlight, his calm like a cool cloth on a fever. Naomi hands him the mic and faces the crowd. My father used to say, she begins, when a snake shows you its skin, don't call it a rope. Tonight, I won't pretend rope where we see scales. She looks back to Darius, and the kindness in her face is the hard kind, the kind that doesn't move when someone throws stones at it. You came to eat from a table my family built. You salted the stew with lies. You brought a woman here and called her helper while you called her baby. You are not a husband. You are a plan. That word hangs in the air like smoke. Darius's eyes glitter. You think you're better than me because your daddy had a trust? You think this little show makes you a queen? You not built like that, Naomi. Maybe not, she says. But I'm built enough to finish what I started. She raises the remote. The projector changes to a simple slide. Return. One word, white on black. This was supposed to be our wedding toast, Naomi says, voice even. I changed it. Now it's my return. She gestures to the covered blessing box by the stage. Everyone who gave us a gift tonight, cash, checks, Zelle notes, even envelopes. It will not go to a honeymoon. It will not go to a joint account. It will go to a new fund in my father's name to help young caterers pay for their first licenses and ovens. We'll publish every cent on Monday. Anyone who wants their gift back can message me. I'll return it with thanks and no questions. The room shifts. Shoulders drop. People breathe. The night grows a spine again. Some faces glow with pride. A few look wounded by the loss of a fairy tale reception, but they nod anyway. Aunties pat each other's hands. Uncles tap phones to take notes. Mama Ife puts the napkin down, finally, like a woman who can see a path through her yard after rain. Darius barks a laugh that sounds like it got lost on its way to being laughter. Charity? He sneers. You doing a charity right now? No, Naomi says. I'm returning what the snake tried to swallow. Serena rolls her eyes. You love a speech. I love a paper trail, Naomi says. Track 4 would have been this fund's charter. We'll save it for the meeting downtown. The taller officer steps closer to Darius. Sir, hands where I can see them. For a second, Darius obeys. Then a new thought crosses his face like a shadow from a fast cloud. He smiles, small and mean. His right hand dips toward his jacket pocket. Don't, the officer says, sharp now. Darius freezes. Slowly, like a magician surrendering a trick, he pulls out a ring, a slim band, different from the one on his finger. He holds it up so it catches the chandelier light. There's an engraving inside. He turns it so Naomi can see. A+D. The room buzzes. Alicia plus Darius, someone whispers. Or Alicia plus. Or Amara plus Darius, Serena says, and for the first time her voice slips. Naomi files the name without blinking. Serena just told on herself. Darius lifts the band to his lips like a man toasting a private joke. You gonna return this too, Naomi? He says. You returning everything tonight? I'm returning your mask to your face, she answers, and the crowd hums at the sting of it. Kemi takes one step closer to the stage, every muscle ready but easy. Ty edges back 2 inches, then 3. He turns his phone in his palm to hide the screen, but not before Kemi's eyes catch the name scrolling in the text thread. AR Logistics. Door code 0931, power. Naomi sees Kemi see it. The world tilts a fraction, the way it does when you realize the ground is not flat but you know how to balance anyway. She nods once. Kemi's chin drops the smallest bit. I've got it. Ms. Holland's voice returns, unaware of the tiny war moving under the floorboards. Naomi, I'll hang up, but I'll stay by the line. Call if you need confirmation for the officers. Thank you, Naomi says, and the system clicks quiet. She looks at Alicia. Do you want to say anything to him? Alicia stares at Darius, the way you look at a house you used to live in after a fire has hollowed it. You told me I was too strong, she says. You meant you couldn't bend me into your shape. That's not a flaw. That's a spine. She turns to Naomi. I'm sorry I came like a storm. You came like the truth, Naomi says. We needed weather. Alicia nods once. A single tear climbs out of her left eye and hangs there, stubborn. She doesn't wipe it. The pastor clears his throat gently. We have heard, he says. Now we must act. Act how? Darius scoffs. Y'all gonna clap and pray and think that does something? Prayer is not a substitute for police, the shorter officer says. Sir, hands behind your back. You are being detained pending investigation. The room makes a sound like hope remembering its own name. Serena's head snaps toward the door again. Ty's fingers twitch on his phone. Darius smiles, quiet and cold. You think the lights and microphones are yours? He says to Naomi. But you forgot one thing. What? Naomi asks level. He lifts his chin toward the ceiling. I grew up where power goes off like a drumbeat. You learn to plan for darkness. The word darkness is still leaving his mouth when the ballroom drops into it. Everything goes black. Aunties cry out. A glass shatters. The DJ curses under his breath. Somebody's phone flashlight pops on, then another, small moons in a sudden night. In the half second before training kicks in, Naomi feels the old fear try to run up her spine. She presses her toes into the floor. Kemi, she calls, voice steady. Hold the door. I've got it. Kemi's voice comes back, strong. The security guards at the blessing box react fast. One plants his hands on the cart. The other yanks 2 small tactical lights from his belt and throws quick cones of place-marking brightness at the box in the nearest exit. The officers move like they've practiced this 300 times because they have. Sir, don't move, the taller one commands. Metal whispers as cuffs unclip. Something else whispers too. Fabric on wood, a heel turning, a body slipping between chairs. Serena, someone hisses. Naomi doesn't chase voices. She keeps her eyes on the thing that matters, the covered box. In the ghost light, its edges seem to glow. She hears movement from the groomsman table, a scuffle sound, a half-suppressed grunt. Ty. She doesn't need to see him to know the shape of his plan. She already saw the door code in his text. Power. He thinks darkness is a key. A phone flashlight sweeps the floor. In its beam, Naomi sees a hand. Darius's, Ty's, slide over the edge of the cart cover. The hand tries to slip under the clear shield. Don't, Naomi says, calm and sharp, and she steps forward so her body is between the hand and the box. You touch that and it becomes a worse night for you than it already is. The hand freezes. It retreats. The emergency lights stutter alive, red dim bars washing the walls. The chandeliers hang black and useless, but the room is no longer blind. We can see enough to choose. Naomi looks for Darius. He is still inside the pale circle of the spotlight's memory, although the bulb is dead. Both officers are near him, silhouettes braced. All right, the taller officer says, breath steady. Everybody take a breath. Security, confirm the panel. Manager, on the phone with your electrician. Nobody goes out those doors without our nod. The venue manager appears from the kitchen, keys at her belt, voice clipped and useful. All power will be back in 2 minutes. Main feed tripped. Looks like the panel was opened downstairs. By who? The shorter officer asks. She shakes her head. Don't know yet. We'll pull camera. Naomi turns to where Serena's red dress was. The space is empty now, a blank where a danger used to be. She's by the corridor, Kemi calls, voice like a spotlight through fog. Tried the service exit. It's locked. I'm here. Stay there, the officer says. Ma'am in red, hands visible. Serena steps back out, controlled smile pasted on, palms up. I was looking for the bathroom, she says sweetly. Sure, Kemi answers, dry as harmattan. Come, let us look together. Alicia moves closer to Naomi. You all right? She murmurs. I am, Naomi says. It's true, which surprises her. She feels stretched and awake, like a drum pulled tight enough to sing. The emergency lights flicker. In that half-blink, a new motion pricks Naomi's eye. The tiniest lift at the corner of the clear cover on the blessing box. Someone loosened a screw before the blackout. Someone planned for small gains in the dark. Naomi tightens her jaw. She reaches for the mic on the stand, but it's dead without mains. She doesn't need it. The room is already leaning toward her voice. Listen, she calls, simple and strong. No one touches this box. Nobody leaves. When the lights come up, we will finish what we started. As if obeying her cue, the chandeliers flare back to life, one row at a time, a bright river returning to its bed. Faces snap into color. The projector coughs and then wakes. In the same second, three things happen. The taller officer takes Darius's wrist and turns him toward the center of the dance floor to cuff. Serena flicks her eyes at Ty, tiny and sharp, a signal sent and caught. And the clear cover over the blessing box lifts a fraction, just enough for a man's 2 fingers to slip through. Kemi is already moving, but she's 2 steps away. Naomi, closest, does the simplest thing. She puts her palm flat on the clear cover and pushes it down with all the weight of a daughter who grew up carrying trays through a kitchen crowded with aunties. The cover thunks back into place, tight. The hand withdraws. Ty staggers as if someone yanked a rope tied to his waist. He turns to run. "Don't," the officer says, and Ty freezes, hands half raised. Sweat slicks his temple. Naomi exhales. The light is back. The room is whole. The box is sealed. For this small second, the ground is under her feet again. Then a new voice rolls out of the speakers, clear, tired, familiar, the venue's head of security, patched through to the DJ board from downstairs. "We pulled the camera on the breaker room," he says. "It's on the main feed now." The projector switches from Naomi's word return to grainy footage of a narrow basement hall. In the frame, a door marked electrical. In front of it, Serena, already there from earlier, slipping a bobby pin into the lock with the clean practice of someone who has done this kind of thing before. A second figure waits in the shadow, texting with a fast thumb. The camera angle catches his profile when he lifts his head. It isn't Ty. It's the MC. On the projector, the basement hallway holds its breath. Serena kneels at the electrical door, hair glossy even in gray security footage, a bobby pin working the lock like a key that refuses to forget. The second figure turns his head to the camera, and every jaw at the front tables drops at once. The MC. Not the DJ, the man with the mic and the velvet voice who'd been warming the room all evening, joking with aunties, teeing up toasts, calling Naomi our radiant bride. And Darius, the man of the hour. He stands now at the edge of the dance floor, close enough to the spotlight that his suit still glows. His smile is stuck mid-sentence like a song that missed its cue. The officers shift as one, the taller one turns his head slightly, measuring distance. The shorter one's eyes flick from the screen to the man. Naomi doesn't rush the moment. She lets the room feel it. The betrayal isn't loud, it's heavy. When she speaks, her voice is calm enough for elders to trust it. "Samuel," she says, using the MC's name, not the stage name he kept repeating into the mic. "Have you anything to tell us?" He opens his mouth and closes it twice. The third time, sound comes out. Look," he says, hands up, palms on display like a dealer who wants you to believe his sleeves are empty. "I didn't open any door. I was checking on a noise complaint. The music. Someone said the bass." The projector plays the rest of the clip without caring about his sentence. Serena picks the lock. The door gives. It swings inward to a little room of gray boxes and switches labeled with strips of white tape and black marker. Ballroom main, kitchen stage feed. Serena looks over her shoulder. Samuel drops his phone into his pocket, steps in and points. The crowd groans, a sound made of embarrassment and anger. A bridesmaid presses her fingers to her mouth. 2 uncles shake their heads, shame and fury swimming in their eyes. Samuel tries again, voice oiled, earnest. "I was trying to help," he says. "She said she was the planner's assistant. She said the florist needed..." "Needed what?" Kemi asks from the service door, voice flat as a cutting board. "Darkness?" Serena, under the chandelier glow, gives a soft, amused smile like a cat yawning. "Some of us," she says, "don't crumble when the lights go out." "Some of us," Naomi says, "build our own." The taller officer takes 1 step toward Samuel. "Sir, please step to the side with me." Samuel's smile jerks right then left like a puppet fighting its strings. You cuff the MC, you ruin the mood, he says softly, as if the room hasn't already been turned inside out. You need me to carry this, I can fix. You have fixed enough, the pastor says, gentle and firm at once like a hand on wire, a child's shoulder moving him out of the road of a car. Samuel lowers his hands, but his eyes flick to Darius with a look that is both apology and plea. Darius does not look back. He is busy building a new plan inside his skull, brick on air. Ms. Holland's voice slips back onto the PA, crisp and unhurried. Naomi, she says. Another alert just pinged. Someone attempted to switch the routing number on your vendor payout account for Adiemi Catering via a device registered to House Mike Ballroom A. That device shows as an event host tablet checked out to Samuel O. at 5:12 p.m. We blocked it. Venue, you may want to audit your sign-out process. The venue manager, small, capable, with braided hair wrapped in a scarf, winces and nods. That's on me, she says, unflinching. We'll fix it and own it. Officers, my office is open. Samuel flinches, then forces a laugh so light it floats 2 inches off the floor and falls dead. This is crazy, he says, but the room does not belong to his voice anymore. Naomi steps forward, her dress whispering around her ankles. She keeps her tone plain, almost conversational. Why, she asks, why risk your name for somebody else's plan? Samuel lifts one shoulder. Bills, he says, and then rushes to fill the silence. I got a mama on dialysis. My sister's rent is 3 months late. The gigs don't pay like they did. Serena said I could make in one night what I make in a month if I just made sure the timing was right. A murmur rolls through the tables, recognition mixed with anger. Everyone in a city knows the shape of bills. Everyone knows the sound of a bad decision wearing a good reason like a mask. Bills are loud, Naomi says softly. I hear you, but you chose this choir on this night. Samuel swallows. He looks down. I did, he says. I did, and I'm sorry, Naomi. I got carried. You got bought, Kemi corrects, not unkind. The officer lifts a hand. Sir, step with me. We'll take your statement. Hands where I can see them. Samuel obeys, jaw tight, eyes on the floorboards like they might tell him how to walk backward into yesterday. Serena watches him with a little shrug that says, You knew what this was. Naomi turns to the crowd, not to rally them, just to ground them. We will not let this place teach us to love drama more than we love truth, she says. We will not let one man's plan define our family's night, but we will name the snake and put it outside. Auntie Folake, in an aso-oke head wrap, nods hard enough to loosen a pin. Oroyipo, she mutters. This matter is plenty. Naomi breathes once, thinking of her father's voice when the generator failed in the old kitchen. He would not shout. He would say, Candles. One by each station. We cook through. They always did. Pastor, Naomi says, will you give Mama the mic? The pastor crosses to Mama Ife and places the cordless in her hand. It feels heavy, but it does not shake. She rises a little, enough to be seen. I will not be ashamed, she says. Her voice is small and terrible and beautiful. I will not be ashamed of my child. We planned love. We found truth. Truth is also a blessing. Amen. A dozen voices answer before they can stop themselves. Mama lifts her chin toward Naomi. Your father used to say, if a thief enters your yard while you dance, you don't stop your song. You call his name so the neighbors know who he is. Thank you for calling the names. Naomi's throat tightens. She nods instead of speaking. The room steadies again on the plank of a mother's courage. The shorter officer nods toward Darius without taking his eyes off his hands. Sir, at this time you are being detained for questioning regarding attempted wire fraud and possible bigamy. Please turn and place your hands behind your back. Darius's smile returns, thin as the edge of a bottle cap. You gonna put on a show, officer, he says. No show, the officer replies. Paperwork. He reaches. Darius stiffens, then lets the cuffs click. The sound is tiny and huge. It ripples across the parquet like a pebble dropped in a pond where everyone is thirsty. "Ty," Darius says over his shoulder, as if names are ropes he can still throw. "Call you know who." Ty lifts his hands, useless. "My phone's dead." He lies. Kemi raises one eyebrow. He lowers his eyes. Serena laughs without humor. "You men are cute when you think you're in charge," she says. "You're not in charge either," Alicia says, stepping a little closer to Naomi now, like a guard dog who has decided which house she belongs to. "You just think you are because you pick people who hurt easy." Serena's cherry mouth curves. "I pick people who want more than they have," she says, eyes flicking to the room, catching small hungers. "That's everyone." Naomi hears the temptation in that, the way a room can make poverty sound like an excuse that erases harm. She doesn't let the idea grow. "You pick openings," she says. "We are closing doors." The venue manager returns from the hall with a clipboard and a tired anger she wears like a tool belt. "Officers," she says, "breaker room door shows pry marks at 8:58 p.m. We have video of Ms. Red Dress with the MC 15 minutes before the first blackout. We will provide it. Also, security found this in the DJ booth cabinet." She holds up a black pouch. The taller officer unzips it. Inside sits a field battery pack and a tiny mesh router the size of a deck of cards. "Signal jammer?" the shorter officer says. The manager lifts a shoulder. "Or a hotspot to reroute traffic through a private network. Our tech says it was wired to piggyback the venue's Wi-Fi for one device. The label says AR guest." The room sucks in breath like it's been punched. It's one thing to hear plans spoken. It's another to see the tools. Serena's smile skates. "Lots of people have routers," she says. "Lots of people don't bring them to weddings," the manager replies. Darius glances at the pouch, then at the officers. "You can't tie that to me," he says. "I was on the floor the whole time." "Not the whole time," Naomi says softly. 26 minutes ago, you were in the service hallway, saying, 'meal ticket.'" A few people snort laughter not because it's funny, but because their bodies can't decide what to do with the pressure in their chest. The taller officer tips his head toward Naomi. "Ma'am, you said you had track 3 still to play," he says. "Is there more we need to hear before we move everyone to statements?" "There is," Naomi says. "But it can wait until the detective arrives. Instead, I'll do this." She turns to the blessing box. Her reflection wobbles on the clear cover. She sets both hands on her bouquet and then places it gently on top, like sealing a prayer into an envelope. When she speaks, she doesn't address Darius or Serena or the officers. She addresses the people who came to love and eat and dance, who wore Geel and ties and new shoes until their toes hurt. "Family," she says. "You gave us gifts. You wrote blessings. Some of those blessings were almost turned into weapons. We won't let that happen. Earlier, I told you what we'll do with the funds. Turn them into a small grant for young caterers in my father's name. If you want your envelope back, you will get it back privately, no questions. If you want it to become a seed, it will become a seed you can see grow. We will post the charter Monday and the first 5 recipients by the end of the month. Students from Southwest DeKalb and Carver High, kids from Mama Sue's culinary class at the youth center, first kitchens in Decatur apartments with 1 plug for 2 pots. There is a sound that isn't applause and isn't a sob. It's the warm exhale of a room remembering why it gathered. A few aunties clap anyway, sharp and tender. Uncle Tunda hits the table once with his flat palm and says, "Anne," like a man proud of the sauce his niece just made on the fly. Naomi lets the room breathe. Then she glances at the officers. "I'll give you everything," she says, meaning the files, the memos, the duplicates she made. "But before we break this room into statements and bags and lights, I need 1 minute for closure." The taller officer nods. 1 minute. Naomi steps into the spot where the light used to hold Darius. He is a foot away, cuffed, chest high, pride injured into something nasty. She doesn't speak to him the way a victor speaks to a loser. She speaks to him the way a witness speaks to a judge. "You taught me something," she says, simple as soup. "You taught me that love without truth is a bank app with the wrong password. It looks like it should open and it never will. I won't try to log into lies again." His nostrils flare. "You'll be alone," he says, low. "You think men line up for women who play police at their own wedding?" Naomi doesn't blink. "I think men who are men line up for women who tell the truth," she says. "If they don't, I still have my mother, my work, and my God. That's plenty of men." Serena clicks her tongue. "Sermon over?" "Not yet," Naomi says. "One more line." She lifts her chin toward the projector. The DJ, eyes wet and furious at the betrayal at his own booth, nods to her like a brother and taps a key. The screen changes to a scanned image of a letter filed 2 hours before the ceremony, a UCC-1 financing statement placing a lien on goods and equipment, including ovens, mixers, vehicles, of Adeyemi Catering, filed by a creditor named AR Logistics, LLC. The paper's stamp time reads 3:08 p.m. The signature is a scrawl that looks like a lie trying to look like a name. The room goes cold. Even people who don't know letters from numbers know predatory when they see it. "You filed a false lien," Naomi says. Not a question. She looks at Serena. "At 3 o'clock while I was in makeup." Serena's smile is a knife now, no ribbon. "Public notice," she says sweetly. "Anyone can file. It clogs things up, banks get skittish, suppliers ask questions, kitchens sit quiet. It's not theft, it's policy." Naomi hears her father's voice in her head. "Policy can be a cane if you lean on it, or a whip if you swing it." She swallows. "We'll get it discharged," the pastor says behind her quickly, as if his words can turn wheels. "Mr. Mensah will—" Miss Holland's voice returns to the speakers, businesslike, a hand extending through a window. "Naomi, I already pulled it," she says. "The lien is fraudulent. AR Logistics is not a registered secured party with a valid security agreement on file, and the description references serial numbers that do not exist. Our counsel can submit a correction statement first thing Monday, but heads up. Some suppliers will freeze orders until it clears. Expect delay." Serena's smile flickers. She did not expect the bank to know the language of her trick. Darius protests because that is his reflex. "She's lying," he says, jerking his chin toward the speakers like a man trying to spit out a bone stuck in his throat. "AR Logistics is legit." "AR Logistics LLC," Naomi says softly, "has an address that belongs to an empty strip mall unit next to a closed tax office and a hair braiding shop that moved 2 years ago. Ask me how I know." Serena opens her mouth, then closes it. Her eyes cut to Ty, who looks at his shoes like they might open and let him climb inside. The shorter officer clears his throat. "All right," he says, and his voice is the practical tone that takes rooms from fire to paperwork. "We have enough to move to statements. Security will wheel the blessing box to the manager's office and lock it. Guests will remain until we take a quick note of names for contact. Venue, lights up, doors closed. Nobody exits except medical necessity. DJ, hold the music." The DJ nods, jaw tight. He cues ambience low, no lyrics, just soft keys, to keep the room from cracking open into raw. Naomi turns to the camera on the tripod, the one cousin Jada set up for memories, which now points at a memory that will either heal people or hurt them. Naomi doesn't speak to it. She looks at it for one heartbeat, as if meeting the eyes of the girls and boys who will watch this later and learn their own names. Then Alicia's phone vibrates loud on the tabletop, the kind of buzz that sounds like an insect trapped under glass. She snatches it up, glances at the screen, and goes very still. "What?" Naomi asks, keeping her voice gentle. Alicia's throat moves. She turns the phone so Naomi can see the notification. It's a security app. Adept lock, warehouse back door opened. Under it, a tiny timestamp. 9:14 p.m. Next line. Motion detected. Storage aisle. Naomi's stomach drops and finds new ground. She doesn't need to ask which warehouse. The Adeyemi catering space sits 3 miles away, in a strip of concrete bays that hold dreams and dust. The same night the plan failed here, something else has started there. Kemi is already moving, eyes bright, brain fast. They had the code, she says. We saw it on Ty's phone. 0931, power. Ty freezes like you can freeze a guilty man mid-breath. The venue manager lifts her radio. Security. Call 911 on the warehouse address Naomi gave us earlier, she says. Report a break-in in progress. We have names. The taller officer keys his radio. Dispatch, add an alarm at Adeyemi Catering, he says, and he rattles off the address like a man who knows his city's bones. Units en route. Serena's face does something ugly for the first time. A glance that says a plan never meant to be a TV show has fallen off the table. We're done here, she says, and turns. Kemi is by the corridor door before Serena's heel can pivot. Done is when the truth finishes, she says, low. We're not there yet. Naomi looks at Darius, at the cuffs, at the lines he keeps trying to draw between himself and consequence. She looks at the screen with the warehouse alert glowing tiny and relentless. She lifts the mic, even though the officers are already moving and security is already dialing and the room is already half a station. Family, she says, because she refuses to let a thief teach her new language for her oldest people. We will give statements. Then a few of us will go to the warehouse. We will not meet darkness with fear. We will meet it with light and paper, if... Her phone begins to ring. Not a notification buzz, a call. The name on the screen, Mr. Mensah. She answers on speaker because there's no point hiding now. Sir? His voice is calm and fast, like rain that brings relief and urgency at once. Naomi, I am at the warehouse, he says. I came to pick up the sealed file we discussed. Something told me to move it. The door is open. I am outside with Officer Carter's partner from the night shift. 2 figures are inside in the dark with headlamps. I can smell chemicals. The room's breath leaves in one sound that could be a prayer or a curse. Chemicals? Naomi repeats, steady because someone must be. Yes, Mr. Mensah says. Something like accelerant. The word hangs above the cake, above the chandeliers, above every bright thing in the room. Naomi looks at the officers. The taller one is already moving, voice on his radio sharp and clear. Possible arson in progress. Repeat. Possible arson. Expedite. And as sirens start to wail somewhere far beyond the ballroom glass, Serena looks up with a smile so small and bright it could cut glass and says, like a woman who has rehearsed one last line, let's see you return what burns. Before we move on, if this story has you gripping your seat, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing our family across the map. Also, what would you do if you were Naomi right now? Head to the warehouse or stay and finish the statements. Have you ever seen something like this happen at a celebration? Your take might show someone the way out. And if you're feeling the ride and want more chapters as they drop, tap subscribe, like, and share with a friend who loves gripping folktales. The sirens on Peachtree sound like a long metal breath being pulled through the city's ribs. The officers in the ballroom peel off into roles without shouting. One stays with Darius, cuffs firm but not cruel. The other huddles with the venue manager and security, logging names and locking doors. The blessing box rolls toward the manager's office with 2 guards and a clipboard as if it were crown jewels. Naomi turns to Mama. You stay, she says softly. It is not a question. Sign whatever they need. Keep the box in your eye. Mama Ife nods once, eyes bright, jaw set. Go, she says, and her voice is the voice Naomi learned to walk to. Kemi is already beside Naomi, bag on shoulder, flats on feet, door code in her head. Alicia takes one quick look at Darius, one last clean inventory of the man she married, and steps to Naomi's other side. The pastor squeezes Naomi's hand. God goes ahead, he says. It is not a slogan. It is a map. Outside, the rain has become a fine mist. Atlanta glows slick and new, like God rinsed it but didn't dry it. A squad car idles at the curb, lights breathing red-blue. Officer Carter's name glows on the dash console in a text, "On warehouse scene." The taller officer, badge B. Hines, opens the back door. "We escort you, we don't chase with you," he says. "Understand?" "Understood," Naomi says. She does not want to be a hero. She wants her father's work to see tomorrow. They move. Tires hiss on wet asphalt. Naomi's wedding dress takes up too much space in the back seat, so she twists and folds it under her like a sheet, Kemi's hands fussing the lace away from the door. Alicia, in the front next to Officer Hines, stares out the window like she's counting every streetlight to keep from thinking about a thing that hurts. "Tell me about the layout," Hines says, eyes on the road. "Roll-up door," Naomi says. "Side personnel door with a keypad. Office in front on the right. Kitchen line straight back. Ovens, walk-in, dry storage to the left. Fire extinguishers at the office door and by the mixer. Mr. Mensah has keys. He's with Officer Carter's partner." Hines nods. "Stay outside unless we tell you. If they lit accelerant, it flashes fast." Naomi swallows. Her father's ledger lives on a high shelf in dry storage, wrapped in an oilcloth that smells faintly of palm kernel. She can see it with her eyes closed, thick, brown, edges rubbed soft by his thumbs. The idea of that leather catching heat makes her jaw ache. Her phone buzzes, a message from Jada. "I'm with your mom." Box locked, Pastor fierce, breathe. Naomi texts back one word: warehouse. At the light on Memorial, Hines's radio pops. "Units be advised. Adept lock alert confirmed at Adeyemi Catering. 2 silhouettes inside. 1 small sedan registered to R. Amos idling 2 bays down. License plate recorded. Fire truck ETA 3 minutes." They turn into the strip. The warehouse row hunkers under a low-hanging gray sky. Units like teeth behind a lip of gutter. The Adeyemi bay door is rolled up 2 feet, a mouth open to speak and then told to hush. A thin shine runs under it, liquid pooled and spread, gasoline making rainbows in the wet. The smell nails itself to Naomi's sinuses. Mr. Mensah stands to the side with an older officer in a windbreaker, Ruiz, both behind their car doors angled for cover. Mr. Mensah lifts a hand when he sees Naomi. It shakes once and then steadies. "Stay behind the line," Ruiz says as they step out. His voice is kind, iron under flannel. No hero moves. Your file is already out. Mensah grabbed it. "Smart man." Mr. Mensah pats a flat wrapped packet tucked under his jacket like a child you carry close in a crowd. His bow tie is crooked. He does not fix it. Inside the warehouse, 2 lights bob in the dark like the eyes of deep-sea fish. One beam swings and lands on the edge of a metal shelf. The other sweeps over a stack of flour sacks and pauses. A hand tips a red plastic can, liquid glugs. The smell gets fatter, meaner. "Police," Ruiz calls, voice booming in that careful way that claims space. "Step out with empty hands. Now." The lights freeze. Then one moves again, faster. "Back!" Hines barks, one palm in front of Naomi, herding her and Kemi behind the corner of the next unit. Alicia grips the door handle so hard her knuckles blanch. "That's Ty's shape," she whispers, "the way his shoulders slope." Naomi sees it too, the one with the tilted head, the trailing step that doesn't land right. That's Ty. The other moves with a tight economy, short and quick. A woman. Serena? No, Serena is at the venue, unless... The thought is a knife and a question. Naomi feels Kemi shift beside her, weight over the balls of her feet, eyes raking the shadow for the second figure's outline. "Hands!" Ruiz shouts again. "Now!" Ty's headlamp bounces once. He steps into view with his palms up. He looks smaller in the warehouse light. Wet, shivering, the sharp suit rumpled, shoes slick. "Don't shoot!" he yells, voice cracking. "I'm trying to stop her." "Hands, hands, hands!" Hines calls, moving out from their cover, stance wide, weapon low. Ty obeys. Behind him, the second light dances once, twice, then cuts. Boots flicker low in the dark, like fish flashing silver and gone. The second body is moving deeper into the aisle. Who? Ruiz demands. Ty swallows. She told me she'd fix it if I... He cuts himself off like a man who just remembered what rooms can do to words. What's in your other hand? Hines barks. Ty blinks. It's reflex more than thought. In his left fist, tight so the knuckles look like pebbles under wet skin, is a lighter. He opens his fingers. It drops. It clicks on the concrete and skitters. Kick it, Hines says. Ty nudges it toward the door with his toe. Ruiz scoops it with a gloved hand and frisbees it toward the curb. It lands in a puddle and dies with a hiss. Behind Ty, the dark moves again. A small cough, a thunk, a curse muffled into a sleeve. Then, thin at first, then breathing, a line of fire hisses to life where liquid has spread, a tongue of orange tasting its own reflection. Back, Ruiz barks. Flash. The flame runs tight and quick along the poured path and licks the bottom of a shelf. The first sack of flour blackens at the edges, then bursts in a soft white poof as hot air expands. It's almost pretty, and then very much not. Ruiz grabs the extinguisher from the jam and blasts a thick white cloud across the growing orange, sweeping side to side like a man mowing sin down to stubble. Second extinguisher, Hines calls. Office door. Naomi points, automatic, muscle memory of safety drills. Hines pivots, yanks the second red can from its hook, and moves like he belongs to the motion. Come out, Ruiz yells into the thicker air. You with the headlamp, hands up and out, or the charge changes. For a beat there is nothing, just the roar of small flame, the cough of the extinguisher, the far heron wail of sirens sliding closer. Then a sound cuts the noise in half. A small human whimper. Who's there? Naomi calls before she can stop herself. Answer me! A voice answers, hoarse and thin. Help! Here! Naomi's whole body recognizes the voice before her head gives it a name. Marla? She breathes. The planner. The real planner. The woman who had double-checked chair counts and vendor credentials and told Naomi she liked her lists. The assistant had been Serena. The planner had been Marla Jackson, solid and steady, with a chipped tooth and a laugh like gravel. Marla, Kemi shouts. Where are you? Back office, the voice croaks. Tape, can't. Hines and Ruiz share a look that is a full sentence. Hines nods once. You, Mensa, stay. You, Ty, on the ground, face down, arms wide. Move and you'll eat gravel. Ladies behind the line, that's not a suggestion. Naomi's muscles argue, but her feet obey. Hines and Ruiz move like men who have run toward bad heat before. Ruiz sweeps foam over the brightest hiss. Hines slices air toward the back office, weapon forward, body a shield against the dumb hunger of fire. A figure darts deeper into the racks, low and quick. A glimpse, tight braids, black hoodie, a long scar glinting on the forearm in headlamp spill. Not Serena, not the MC, not Ty. Smaller, meaner in the joints. The second body vanishes toward the loading dock exit, feet sure on the maze only thieves and owners know by heart. Back door, Ruiz shouts. I've got it, a new voice answers. Officer Carter, breath puffing white in the cool air, sprinting from the far lot, rain on his cap brim. He peels around the building's edge toward the dock. Hines reaches the office, shoulder checks the half-open door, and disappears inside. For a heartbeat that stretches like pulled sugar, Naomi hears nothing. Then Hines's voice. Got her. Marla appears, stumbling, one arm over Hines's shoulder, the other pinned to her side with silver duct tape. Her mouth is taped too, eyes wild. Foam flecks her braids. The tape has a smear of something sweet on it. Vanilla, maybe. Someone used the nearest thing at hand to shut her up. Rage puts a metal taste in Naomi's mouth. Kemi moves, swift and clean. Scissors in my bag, she says. Alicia yanks them out, hands them. Kemi snips tape with the neat speed of a woman who has saved more than one child from a stuck bead braid. Hines eases Marla down. Ruiz keeps one eye on flame, one on door, one on Ty, because some men grow third eyes when they have to. Marla coughs hard enough to turn her face purple. Kemi peels the mouth tape back with one sure rip. Marla spits, coughs again, blinks tears into the fog. She rasps, pointing with her chin. She said she was helping you. Then she said you didn't need the blessing box paperwork. Then she said new plan. Then... Her eyes roll to Naomi, focus snapping like a magnet finds true north. Her name isn't Serena, she says, voice shredded. It's Amara Okoye, and she's... A loud metallic slam from the back cuts her words, the dock door whipping shut. Carter's voice barks something that doesn't make it through the roar in Naomi's ears. Then a squeal of tires, small car torquing out of the alley, fishtail snap, gone. Plate? Ruiz shouts. Got it. Carter's answer flies back. Same sedan, R. Amos. Dispatch has it. Hines checks Marla's pulse like he's testing a batter, firm and quick. You with me? He asks. Marla nods a tiny nod. Her hands shake. She's good, Hines calls to Ruiz. Smoke, tape, no major burns. EMS now. Fire truck brakes squeal at the curb. The street fills with men and women in yellow coats moving like practiced thunder. A hose blooms fat and mean. A heavy line snakes through the roll-up like a tame python. Accelerant? A firefighter shouts. Small flash only. We'll drown it. Naomi's legs go weak only when the first waterfall of water hammers the concrete and steam bursts up like a ghost, and then is just air. She leans against the cold metal jamb and lets her bones be bones. Ty whimpers into the wet floor. I didn't light it, he says, voice muffled by his sleeve and his fear. You poured, Ruiz says, unwavering. And you walked in. Ty sobs once, hard. She said just scare him, man. She said a little smoke shuts down deliveries for weeks. She said if I didn't help, she'd tell my PO I was violating. She said... He bites the words in half, teeth clicking. Shame sits big on his back like another person. Naomi looks at him. She does not feel mercy for his plan. She feels mercy for the part of him that believed he had no other plan. You will tell everything, she says. Not cruel. Names, times, what Amara promised, what Darius did. All of it. Ty nods into the water. Okay, he whispers. Okay. Mr. Mensah touches Naomi's elbow. His fingers are cold and kind. I have the ledger, he says, and he lifts the flat packet under his jacket an inch, pride in the small save like sunlight through cloud. And the sealed file. The rest? He gestures at the warehouse, where smoke curls lazy now, and men speak in the short private sentences of work. We will scrub soot and write new lists that we can do. Naomi nods. A calm settles on her like a jacket that fits. It is not joy. It is not victory. It is the particular stillness of a woman who has chosen the hard road and finds that yes, her feet still know how to walk. Carter jogs back from the alley, breath visible, cap askew. Car fled east, he says. Dispatch pinged a plate reader on Boulevard 2 minutes ago. Units moving. We'll put a plain car at the venue in case your red dress friend tries to slip. Good, Hines says. He points 2 fingers at Naomi and Kemi and Alicia. You 3, names to EMS if they check you, then back to the ballroom for statements. Ruiz and I will meet you there when this is secure. Naomi turns to Marla, who is drinking water from a plastic bottle like it's church. Can you walk? Marla nods, coughs, nods again. She said, she rasps, forcing the words through a throat that doesn't want to make sound. Plan B is the church. Something about a record. She laughed. She said, you can lock a bank, but you can't lock paper in Auntie's cupboard. Then she taped me and said she'd be right back. The church? Naomi repeats. Her mind drops the word into her map and watches it ripple. Church office, marriage license, records, old tithe lists, addresses. Auntie's cupboard. Who? Which auntie? Which record? Hines hears it too. Which church? He asks. Marla blinks. Your dad's. The office, she says. She had a key. I heard the keychain jingle when she leaned over me. A cough punches her words. She called somebody and said, "Peel the license copy from the ledger, make it look like it was notarized last week." She said an old auntie keeps it. Marla tilts her head. I don't know which auntie. Naomi does. She sees it like a photo lighting in a tray. Auntie Bisi, the church secretary who kept everything in biscuit tins and file folders under her desk, so the devil won't find them. Auntie Bisi makes zobo that could fix a bad day. Auntie Bisi is at home at this hour, carefully watching a Yoruba movie that will end in a lesson. Auntie Bisi's keys hang on a blue lanyard by the back door. The copy of the license the pastor printed for them sits in a green folder in the second drawer, still warm in Naomi's memory from the way Auntie patted it earlier. Just in case your mama wants a keepsake, she had said. Amara knows too many doors. We have to call Auntie Bisi, Naomi says. Now. Mr. Mensah's phone is already in his hand. On it, he says, stepping aside, voice slipping into that gentle, commanding tone men like him use when talking to women who have guarded churches longer than they have been alive. Auntie, he says when the line picks up, lock your door, don't open. We are sending an officer. I am watching Toy and Tomato, Auntie says in the background, aggrieved and brave. Who is at my door that will take my show away? Maybe no one, maybe someone. Do not open. She sniffs. If it is that silly girl from planning, I will spray her with water. A pause. The church's power is off and on. I am not impressed. The smallest laugh flips out of Kemi, nerves looking for a joke to stand on. Naomi squeezes her hand. Unit to Naomi. Dispatch crackles through Heinz's radio, impersonal and saving at once. Patrol cars 2 minutes from the church office. We have eyes on the red sedan from earlier heading south on Boulevard. No lights, plate matches. Request. Do you want officers to hold the secretary at church and wait for you, or proceed to secure without you? Hold, Heinz says, looking at Naomi. She meets his eyes. He reads the answer there. We're coming. And keep the red sedan in play. No stops till backup. I don't want a chase that ends in a crash on Moreland. Copy. A firefighter in a soot-smeared helmet steps to the door. Knock down inside, he says, voice like gravel and coffee. We'll vent and check hot spots. Smells like someone poured just enough to scare you. Good catch on the extinguisher. Thank you, Naomi says. She means it for the room, the men, the night, and her father. As they turn to go, Ruiz squats briefly by Ty. Last chance before I put you in a car. Names, he says. Ty's face crumples. Amara Okoye, he says. She called herself Serena 'cause she said rich folks tip Serena. She got a P.O. box on Candler. The MC's real name is Samuel Osei. He gets paid in cash to keep names out. AR Logistics is her cousin's thing on paper. Rita Amos. She drives the red sedan. Good, Ruiz says, writing it down. He looks at Naomi. This helps. It does and it doesn't. Names are one kind of light. They make shadows shorter. They also make the shapes more real. They pile back into the cruiser, Naomi and Kemi in the back, Alicia up front again. Heinz hits the lights. The car surges. Naomi texts Jada. Church. Auntie Bisi. Lock door. 10 blocks slide under wet tires. Naomi's heart taps a rhythm that feels like the opening bars of a song she doesn't know but already loves. The church sits low under a live oak that drips like God washing his hands. A patrol car idles out front. Auntie Bisi's porch light is on, bright and stubborn. Auntie herself stands behind her screen door with a spray bottle like a weapon and her wrapper tied high, hair scarfed, eyes fierce. You came, she says, as if they're late for stew. Good. Heinz nods at the patrol officers. Anybody come by? A young officer lifts her chin. We saw a figure cross the lot, hoodie up. When the patrol swung into the drive, they peeled off behind the annex, she says. We're covering both sides. Good, Heinz says. He turns to Auntie Bisi. May we go in the office? You may, she says, handing Naomi the keys off the blue lanyard without fuss. Go and collect my biscuit tin, or I will lose my mind. They move as a small, practiced group. Hines with the gun, the other officers spreading quiet along the walls, Naomi and Kemi and Alicia behind them, with their hands tucked into sleeves to keep from touching what courage makes you want to touch. The office smells like paper and lemon cleaner and the faint perfume of old hymnals. Naomi goes straight to the green folder in the second drawer and lifts it out. It is light and wrong, empty. A coldness like a wet hand grips the back of Naomi's neck. She opens the top drawer, bottom drawer, the cupboard. The biscuit tin sits where Auntie always puts it. Inside, rubber bands, paper clips, a stick of peppermint gum. No license copy. No flimsy notarization slip Auntie keeps to put in wedding shadow boxes for brides. No, nothing. She was here, Kemi says, voice flat with hate. Back door? Hines asks. Locked, the young officer says, hand on the knob. No marks. She had a key, Marla had said. Keys slide you through without bruising wood. Naomi turns, eyes tracking the room for the shadow of a woman who learned every door in her life in 1 month. On the window, fog blooms and fades as the AC cycles. In the fog, someone has traced a heart with a fingernail and then slashed it with one quick line. Kemi sees it too. Bold goat, she mutters. A thump sounds from the annex hall. Not a big sound, small, soft, not a door. Something dropped. Hines lifts his palm. They still. The patrol officer at the back murmurs into her radio. The other one shifts his weight and sets it again. Quiet. A breath later, a face appears in the old glass of the hallway door. A flash of jawline, tight braids tucked into a black cap, eyes bright and flat. The woman lifts her phone. She holds it to the glass like a communion wafer. On the screen is a photo taken 30 seconds ago. Auntie Bissie's living room from across the street through a slat in the blinds. Mama Ife sits on the couch, hands folded, looking at her phone. Jada stands at the window, back turned. The caption under the photo is a single word. Easy. The woman's mouth curves. She winks. Then she runs. Go! Hines barks. The patrol officer yanks the back door. It bangs. Night rushes in. Wet oak leaves slap faces. Kemi's breath rips in her throat as she and Naomi clear the threshold. The woman, Amara now, Serena burned away, flies down the annex steps like she was born running. She doesn't sprint for the street. She cuts hard left, sliding along the fence line, vanishes behind the dumpster, and a car horn barks once on the street. A red taillight flickers. Rita's sedan idles at the curb with the passenger door open like a laugh. Left! The young officer shouts. Hines angles. The sedan peels. There's no clean shot that won't risk the house behind it. Hines holds fire. Tires squeal. The car fishtails, corrects, and in that split breath, Amara turns back, raises her hand, and shows Naomi a rectangle of pale green through the rain. The license copy. Auntie's careful ink bright as a bruise under streetlight. Naomi's stomach drops and then hardens. It is not paper. It is proof someone will try to twist. Plate, Hines calls. Same R. Amos, the patrol officer answers. Broadcasting now. The sedan screams away, taillights smearing in the wet. Silence rushes back like a wave took a breath and then lay down again. Naomi stands in the church doorway, keys cold in her palm, heart beating a fist against her ribs. Behind her, Auntie Bissie clucks once. She says. It is a sound that carries the weight of old women who have seen men plan and still plant yam and still cook and still sing. She presses a hand to Naomi's shoulder. Bring back my paper, she says. I hate when thieves think they are clever. Naomi nods. Her jaw sets. We will. Her phone dings. A text from an unknown number. 2 words left. The bubbles dance, pause, start again. The second text lands. Track 3. Her head snaps up. At the same time, her screen flickers to an incoming video call. No caller ID. She ends it on reflex. It rings again. Hines shakes his head. Don't. It rings a third time, more insistent, as if the night itself is trying to talk. Naomi answers, sound only. A woman's voice pours through, clear as if she were in the room. "Hi, my queen," Amara says. "You forgot a track." The line clicks dead. For a sliver of a second, Naomi hears the ballroom again, the projector hum, the hush, the thin squeal of a mic finding itself. She feels how much of this night has been about who holds the play button. She looks at Hines. He looks back. The radio at his shoulder crackles. Units on Boulevard have visual on red sedan. Pursuit not engaged. Vehicle slowing at the ramp near I-20. Request instructions. Hines depresses his transmit. "Shadow only," he says. "Do not light her up till we're boxed. She's not wrecking a family on the interstate tonight." He releases, turns to Naomi. "We'll get the paper back," he says. "We'll get your warehouse aired and your planner checked and the men with cuffs and cars. We'll take names until the alphabet is tired. But you need to know what she's saying." "What?" Naomi asks, steady. Hines doesn't flinch. "She thinks there's a recording you didn't play. Something that hurts in a different way." Naomi breathes in. The night tastes like wet oak and old paper, and the thin metal of fear sharpened into something you can hold. She squares her shoulders in her damp dress under the church light that has seen more sins than this, and more grace too. "Then we go back," she says, "and we press play." From the street a siren winds low and long. At the corner a red taillight flares once and disappears into the black curve of the interstate ramp like a tongue retreating into a snake's mouth. The play button waits. The churchyard holds its breath after the red sedan vanishes into the wet night. Auntie Bessie clutches her spray bottle like it's a weapon God handed her, and the patrol officers keep their eyes on the street as though they could drag Amara back by sheer will. Naomi, damp dress clinging to her legs, feels her own voice rise in her chest. Not panic, but a sharp, steady flame. "Enough," she says quietly. "We end it tonight." When they arrive back at the Peachtree Grand, the ballroom has changed. The guests are quieter now, no dancing, no small talk, just pockets of people murmuring and staring at the screens, waiting for Naomi's return. Mama Ife rises the moment Naomi steps in, her strength like a light in the room. She takes her daughter's hand and squeezes, no words needed. The officers position Darius near the stage, cuffs glinting under the chandelier. Ty sits slumped in a chair, a towel around his shoulders, eyes red. Samuel, the MC, looks hollow now, no jokes left to give. Alicia stands near Naomi, spine straight, no longer just a storm but an anchor too. Naomi walks to the microphone, bouquet gone, veil torn by the rain. She doesn't fix herself. This is who she is now. She lifts the mic, and the room falls utterly still. "Family," she begins, voice low but carrying. "You've seen the snakes. You've seen their plans. They tried to take my father's work, my mother's home, even the papers that prove who I am. They tried fire and lies and masks. But here's what they forgot. Truth always leaves a trail, and tonight we followed it." The projector hums back to life. On the screen, stills from the warehouse cameras, Amara's braids flashing in the dark, the can in Ty's hands, Marla bound in tape. Another image, the green folder drawer at Auntie's office, empty but documented, proof that Amara's hands had reached where they shouldn't. Naomi looks straight into the lens of Jada's camera, the one still recording everything. Amara Okoye thinks she won because she stole a copy of a license, but a copy is not the truth. The real license? She nods at the pastor. Still unsigned, still safe, still ours. The pastor holds it aloft, the official parchment unblemished. A ripple of relief passes through the crowd like wind through tall grass. And the file Amara tried to burn? Naomi gestures to Mr. Mensah, who lifts the wrapped packet. "Safe. My father's legacy lives." Naomi's voice hardens now, the warmth stripped away. "Darius, you wanted my family's wealth. You wanted my trust. You wanted to walk away with a meal ticket. She takes one step closer, the mic catching every word. Instead, you walk away with handcuffs, with the world watching you admit what you are. No money,